What's good, family? It's your man YB back once again. So, Terence Bum Crawford has finally broken his silence in a leaked statement to Mike Coppinger of ESPN. Now, again, in case you man don't know, I'm sure you all do, but just to give you man a drop. Essentially, in the last few days, Terence Bum Crawford came out and officially ducked the Errol Spence fight. And in fact, he didn't even announce that he was dropping the Errol Spence fight. Instead, the first smidgen we heard that anything was officially wrong wasn't a statement, wasn't anything else. It was hearing the fight announcement of Crawford versus Avanesian. Who does that? Anywho, so after leading with a new fight announcement, after officially cucking the fans with a new fight announcement, my man has finally decided to backtrack. Yeah? My man finally decided to put the horse in front of the cart. Weird ass dude leading with the cart first. Terence Crawford, one of them guys. No wonder. He from Omaha. Yeah, some next farm looking ass Don. Farm Don decided to lead with a new fight announcement and not a statement. Yeah, back to front, inbred, looking, acting ass, 100%. Anyway, Mr. Back to Front has now decided to put a statement out conveniently. And this is what it is, bottom line. I agreed to all of their BS, and they've been dragging their backside for months. Spence was nowhere to be found, while I was trying to make the deal. I explained to Al Heyman and Earl that I was going to fight before the end of the year. Since they want to continue to drag their backside, I'm going to fight another champion who actually has the balls to fight me. David Avanesian is a very tough task. He's knocked out 6 of his last opponents, and this guy is dangerous. Once I'm successful against Avanesian, my plan is still the same. Whoop Errol Spence ass. Now, off the rip here, for me, if Terence Crawford had led with his statement, it would have a lot more weight for me. But it's almost like he's clocked now. Oops. He's realised the public backlash, and now we get a statement saying all the things we'd expect to hear. Yeah? Put it this way, people. How many... what are the chances Terence Crawford's going to come out and say, yeah, I'm the one who ducked the fight, and I just feel like fighting some more bums, as I've done throughout my whole career. Yeah, he was never going to say that. Oh, it's all Errol Spence's fault. Now, again, this is what I've been saying. No one else has been saying this, by the way. This is a key reason why I've been saying all negotiations should be public. Or at least, the minute there's problems, if fighters are smart and they really want to make a fight, you need to make your problems public. That way, there's a public log. For example, yeah, let's say Terence Crawford 2 months ago said, Heyman and Errol Spence are dragging their ass. Heyman and Errol Spence are nowhere to be found. I've explained it again. Imagine 2 months ago, Terence Crawford put this message out, and then this happens. That way, oh well, Crawford did tell us there's problems. But guess what? In fact, to the contrary, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, both of them are clowns. And that's why, yeah, ultimately I'm blaming Terence Crawford, because he's the one who has a whole fight booked. But on a wider level, I hold both of them responsible, because both of them, for the last 4 months, have had periodic interviews. Both of them have said, yeah, no problem, the fight is going to happen. In fact, both of them were blaming the fans. Oh, the fans need to back off. Yeah, the fight's coming, the fans need to back off. And then this happens. Now, Errol Spence put a message out a few days ago saying that Terence Crawford's been missing for 2 weeks. That was the first time I kind of saluted Errol Spence. But it's too late by then. It's no good waiting 4 months and then say these guys are being weird. And same as for Crawford. I don't know what's really been going on behind closed doors. That said, I'm backing Team Spence on this one. Because it weren't Team Spence who've brought up a whole new fight. It's not Team Spence who have been acting in bad faith. Listen, if Team Spence didn't want this fight, if Team Spence were acting in bad faith, they'd have a whole fight booked against the bum out of nowhere. They're the ones who've been blindsided. So let's say Errol Spence didn't want it and Errol Spence was playing games. How's he benefited? All Errol Spence has done is lose more time. The only person who's benefited here is Crawford because he hasn't lost out. He's about to jump back in the ring again. So yeah, to sit here and say I'm 100% sure would be lying. But the way Terence Crawford's gone about this is true hillbilly style. You've got a whole fight booked and then you throw in on some complaints. In a way, yeah, this sums up Terence Crawford's behaviour. He did the same thing with Bob Arum. For example, Terence Crawford sapped up millions of dollars for bum fights against washed up Amir Khan, against washed up Kell Brook. Got overpaid for them fights. Yeah? And then, so he soaked up all of Bob Arum's money. And I'm not someone, I couldn't care less about Bob Arum. He's made enough money. I'm just saying. Terence Crawford soaked up enough money from Bob Arum, had no problem soaking all the money up for bum fights. And then, on his way out, when he realises he's fought all the bums he can with Top Rank, and he decides to leave, he then, snakily, puts in a lawsuit for more money. Unbelievable. One of the most ungrateful guys. And this is the same thing for me. Terence Crawford wastes time in Errol Spence negotiations. He's the one who pulls out and decides to fight a bum instead. And he's the one, you know what I'm saying? He's the one who's gone on to fight another fight. Errol Spence doesn't have a fight booked. If Errol Spence was the one playing games, why don't he have a fight booked? Yeah? Terence Crawford has a fight booked and then he says, oh, well, it's all their fault. Well, that doesn't work like that. If it's all Errol Spence's fault, why is this the first we're hearing about it after you have a fight booked? That doesn't make sense, people. It'd almost be fair enough, yeah, if Terence Crawford was saying to this day, sorry people, I'm not speaking publicly, I'm just fighting Avanesian. That would make sense. Why? Because that would show, well, he just doesn't want to say anything about it at all. But the fact that you've mentioned something publicly now, the question is, where was this 2 months ago? 3 months ago, when it could have made a difference? It's no good coming out publicly when the fight is officially off and you've got a new fight booked and complaining. That looks like someone backtracking. Again, the same as the Bob Arum stuff. Yeah? Why wasn't Terence Crawford suing Bob Arum before the Kell Brook fight? Why wasn't he suing Bob Arum before the Amir Khan fight? Explain that to me. If Terence Crawford had problems with Bob Arum, why wasn't he suing Bob before he got paid $5 million to fight a washed up Amir Khan? Why wasn't he suing Bob Arum before he got paid $5 million to fight a washed up Kell Brook? Oh, so which is it, Terence? Is Bob Arum really bad? And does Bob Arum owe you money? Or does he not? Because someone, in my mind, yeah, someone can't be bad paying you $5 million to fight bum fighters, washed up fighters. That don't make sense. Terence Crawford's he squeezed the life out of you, and then when he's got nothing left, he try and get someone else out. Yeah? He strung these negotiations out at the time when he could do something. 2 months ago, where was this then? 2 months ago, Terence Crawford coming out saying this would have been much more impactful. Because then, it would have put pressure on Team Spence to prove otherwise. It's no good saying it now. It's a consolation. Oh, well, it's actually their fault. Well, what do you mean? It's too late now. You've got a new fight booked. So, of course, you're going to say that. Of course, Terence Crawford going to blame the other side now. But where was this when it mattered? And that's why really I'm sorry, but I don't believe him. And I'm not saying Errol Spence is perfect. Errol Spence has not done this properly either. Errol Spence should have been said the things going on a month ago. 2 months ago. Because everyone has agreed these negotiations are taking too long. Errol Spence or Crawford should have said why 2-3 months ago, before it gets to this point. Now it's all just a consolation, innit? He said, she said, although I do believe Team Spence more. For the reason I mentioned. Now, some clowns, Hatman said, oh, well, you know, it's not Terence Crawford because I've heard Terence Crawford accepted 35%. Oh my God. If anyone out there believes Terence Crawford has accepted 25%, 35%. You're having a laugh. Terence Crawford has not accepted less than 40%. No way. And if I'm wrong, yeah, if, for example, Terence Crawford has accepted 35%, I'll stand corrected. But even so, ultimately, Terence Crawford hasn't accepted anything because he's fighting Avanesian. And once again, Terence Crawford's career of fighting being overpaid to fight bums continues. That's my issue here. Yeah? Terence Crawford has a whole resume of fighting bums for a lot of money. And unfortunately, who is doing what they normally do here? Terence Crawford's doing what he normally does. In all fair to Errol Spence, he fought a prime Sean Porter. He fought a prime Ugas. The same thing can't be said for Terence. When was the last prime 147 pounder Terence Crawford fought? If anything, Avanesian will be the first one, and the man's already been stopped by someone who Terence Crawford stopped. So I struggle to count Avanesian. He's not a champion. Errol Spence has fought 147 prime champions again and again and again. He went to UK to dethrone Kell Brook, who really was top dog. And Errol Spence was losing that fight. How many fights, has Terence Crawford been in where he's been losing the first half of the fight? How many fights has Terence Crawford been in where he's an underdog? Oops. Errol Spence has been in the UK and been an underdog. So yeah, man, the guy's a cornball. Terence Crawford's a cornball. And these are all very convenient excuses now. Oh, they've been dragging their ass for months. Where was you telling us this? If someone's dragging their ass, why didn't you mention that? Because what gets me is, in every interview, we haven't heard nothing about this. And that's why I say, I'm the one who originally said, I had a feeling both of these fighters aren't too fussed if this fight happens. Because why weren't they mentioning these things? If Errol Spence, both are basically saying both teams didn't want it. So why, when these guys did interviews, were they both saying, yeah, it's going to happen and the fans need to back off? That don't help no one. Errol Spence was nowhere to be found. Again, it's no good saying that now. Yeah? Crawford has to say these things. I explained to Al Heyman, and again, this whole explain to Al Heyman thing. Why didn't Terence Crawford come out publicly and say, these negotiations are taking time, I want everyone to know, if this ain't done by November, I'm fighting someone else. He could have put that out in August. At least then we'd all know. And that's why, honestly, I really do hate private negotiations. And the only benefit to maintain private negotiations is if people are trying to do dodgy things. Think about it. If two men want to fight you, and two men genuinely are going to be fair, why would it not be public? And I'm not saying all the literal particulars. I'm saying the bulk of things should be out there. Let the people decide. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? Look at AJ and Fury and whatever else. I hate to say this, but how well is doing it privately going? It seems to be private negotiations only get done versus bums. Whenever there's a real fight to be had, all of a sudden, can't get done. Private negotiations, listen, for bum fights, it's fine. If these guys are fighting bums, look how quickly Avanesian got done. We didn't hear about 4 months of negotiations. We didn't hear about people going missing. Nowhere to be found. No, the fight locked in. And that's why I'm sceptical of a lot of these guys. Not just Crawford, the whole package for me. But then again, it might be the case. What if Errol Spence... Errol Spence has had other big fights done. In all fairness. Errol Spence never had a problem fighting Kell Brook. Yeah, and that was against Eddie Hearn. As such, Errol Spence never had a problem fighting Kell Brook. Never had a problem fighting Sean Porter contractually. Never had a problem fighting Danny Garcia. But yet, Crawford, who by the way is known to be a diva, is known to love to fight bums, overmatched bums. All of a sudden, Crawford's on the scene. Mr. I'm going to take all your money and then sue you. And all of a sudden, there's problems. That's sceptical for me. And let's not also forget, I remember Crawford versus Porter, which is really... It wasn't... Porter was well past his prime. Porter didn't even really train. But anyway, even Crawford versus Porter, I remember at the time, negotiations were dodgy. I remember it. I remember it last year. It was taking ages to get done. And that wasn't a premier fight. That was still a fight Crawford was a 5-1 favourite in. But still, it's one of the better people, if not the best. In fact, it is. That's the best person Crawford's fought at 147. Oops. All of a sudden, it took ages to get done. Honestly, I think it was about 2 months. Oops. So what's that telling you? Who's the common denominator here? Hate to be obvious, it's Crawford. And until I see otherwise, it's going to be Crawford. I can't believe the clowns. There's a whole cohort of goofies saying it's Errol Spence, and none of them have any real arguments. Not one. Wait a minute, your man runs off to fight someone else, and it's Errol Spence's fault. If Errol Spence didn't want to make this fight, why didn't he have a fight booked himself, innit? If you know you're just going to clown off and not take these negotiations seriously, why didn't Errol Spence have a B plan? And that's the bottom line for me. That's all the proof I need. Errol Spence was all in on this fight. Crawford clearly wasn't. And that's for me game, set and match, particularly when you add in the history like I've explained. Errol Spence has fought top guys. Crawford has not. And once again, what's Crawford doing? Fighting a bum. Nah, man, he's washed. Get this guy out of here. Terence Crawford knows Errol Spence can't be at 147 for too long. And he's either trying to wait him out. Crawford's probably thinking, Errol Spence, he won't be here long. Why would I bother busting my back? Why would I risk getting my back blown out by Errol Spence when I can hang out? Because let's be real now, Terence Crawford's come from 130. He ain't really in a rush to move up to 154. He can easily chill at 147 for the rest of his life now. So why would he bust a gut to fight Errol Spence to become undisputed when he can sit back, play around with negotiations, and essentially collect the belts for free? That's what he's thinking. There's no other explanation. Once I'm successful against Avanesian, my plan's still the same. Whoop Errol Spence's ass. This guy is sounding like Benavidez. Benavidez before the Lemieux fight. Once I beat Lemieux, I'm going to fight a big fight. Now he's fighting another bum. Every single fight. Once I fight this. Bum slayers. These guys are bum slayers. They love to fight bums. They love it. And that's the bottom line, people. Yeah, get it in your head. The big fights ain't happening. These guys love to fight bums. If they're not in an 80-20 fight, they ain't interested. These guys aren't interested in 50-50 fights. Because the problem is, once you've been paid 5 mil, imagine being paid 5 mil, to fight a washed up Amir Khan. Imagine that. Imagine being pound for pound number 1 and being paid millions to fight a washed up, no chin having ass Amir Khan. You can't get better than that. Easy fight. And you get paid 5 mil. Why would you want to risk fighting a hard-ass fight for 30 mil? Doesn't make sense. Crawford's thinking, well, I can fight 3 bums for 15 mil. Or get my shit pushed in by Errol Spence. Nah, man, fuck that. I'll fight the bums. And that's not my opinion. That's what Terence Crawford has voted on. Bottom line. That's not me, that's not you. That's the vote. He's voted with his feet. Oops. Here, clown. Get this guy out of here. He needs to be stripped. I don't know who the mandatory is. Some mandatory. I want to see Ennis. I want to see Ortiz petitioning to push his shit back. That's what he needs. Crawford, that's the problem, you see. Crawford needs a rock and a hard place. It's a shame, really, that Boots Ennis is Errol Spence is mandatory. That's a real travesty. Because what Crawford needs, he needs Errol Spence on one side and Boots Ennis on another side. Then, when he knows, shit, I've got a Boots Ennis mandatory breathing down my neck, or a big Terence Crawford fight, at that point, he'll say, okay, fuck it. I'll have to fight Errol Spence for big money. But now, when he can sit back and fight Avanesian, a man who's been knocked out by bums already, he's got an escape route. So yeah, I blame the governing bodies. The governing body should have been stepped in. No, you're not fighting Avanesian. You're fighting Errol Spence, or you're being stripped, or you're fighting Boots Ennis. Simple as that. Anyway, I'm pissed off. Get this dusty guy out of here. Get Terence Bum Crawford out of here. I ain't trying to hear no more about him. He pound number 50 right now. 100%.